Chapter 853. Soft, gentle music began to play in the banquet hall. Everyone turned to the door at once. A young, handsome man was making his way over to the podium with a smile. "Welcome, Mr. Trevor Penn," the MC shouted over the music. President Rogan said a few words to Mr. Homer Claft before walking over to Wilbur. Everyone in the room got to their feet, looking at this legendary person in admiration. Hannah was struck dumb, her face flushing and her heart beating wildly in her chest. It really was him, the godlike man who had saved her and her father, the man who had caused her to daydream every other minute and lose focus on her own life. Hannah wanted to say hello to him but felt like it would be out of place. She hardly deserved to even get close to him. Just then, however, Wilbur turned around and smiled at Hannah. He smiled at me. He remembers me. Bliss flooded Hannah's chest all at once, and she felt like her chest was blooming. What Wilbur was actually doing, however, was just greeting someone he knew. Just then, Wilbur met with Rogan in the middle of the hall, both men shaking hands warmly. Rogan then introduced Wilbur to the crowd, obviously using Trevor Penn's name. As they were running a little late already, Rogan and Wilbur went to the podium. Wilbur shook Homer's hand politely, greeting each other. Both men looked each other up and down, exchanging a meaningful smile. Under Rogan's instructions, the MC announced for the event to officially start. A tray with a scepter representing the Sheik was brought up to Rogan. Rogan picked the scepter up and passed it to Wilbur with both hands. Wilbur received it with a smile. Just then, Rogan turned to face the crowd. "I hereby declare Mr. Trevor Penn to be a first-class Sheik. Sheik Trevor Penn shall also be assigned territory of Saturn Village." The crowd exclaimed in surprise, before bursting into brilliant applause. A first-class sheik here was practically considered to be on the same level as a minister. Despite the fact that Trevor did not have a position in the government, it was already a big enough deal that he was a sheik. After all, he had been given his own territory and would be treated like a king within the said territory. Nothing like this had ever happened before. After the applause died down, Rogan announced a series of projects that the nation would be collaborating with Cape on. These projects practically covered all the nation's needs. The crowd understood the underlying message of this announcement. The Dasha businessmen were elated. This meant that they would be headed towards the peak of their careers. After the ceremony was finished, the food was served, and the guests sat down to eat. Rogan, Trevor, and Homer shared a table. The rest of the crowd also took their seats. Everyone was still looking at Trevor, their gazes full of admiration. After all, not everyone had the chance to share a table with the Dasha embassy representative and the president of the nation. Lunch ended amidst the calming, graceful music. Homer gave a short speech expressing his support for the businessmen of Dasha, then left. Following that, Trevor greeted the crowd before turning to leave. The crowd began to line up after that, going forward to shake hands with Rogan. It was an enormous privilege, and everyone was excited as they crowded forward. Hannah was the last to go forward, and Rogan shook her hand with a smile. "Congratulations, Miss Toya, for working with such a powerful business partner. I'm sure your company will only be headed for glory." "Thank you. Cape Consortium is indeed brilliant. There's no denying that," said Hannah politely. Rogan smiled. "It's not just Cape, you know. Mr. Trevor Penn's plenty brilliant himself." Hannah was shocked. It was true that Trevor was extremely powerful, practically a godlike existence.